You've been here 1,000 times. Under these lights, it's just a store. But after midnight, the hum of the freezers changes. The shadows in aisle 9 stretch further than they should. And for 3 employees, the graveyard shift turned into something they still can't explain. Let's call him David. He was 19, working his 3rd week on the night shift. His task was simple: restock the potting soil in the outdoor garden center before the morning crew arrived. It was 3:15 a.m. The store was dead quiet. David was kneeling, tearing open a bag of soil when he heard it, like a metal rack being shoved in the next aisle over. He froze. He knew he was the only one in that section. He called out, thinking maybe a coworker was messing with him. Nothing. He went back to work, but the air, it felt heavy, static. The kind that makes the skin on your arms tighten before your mind understands why. He stood up, and that's when he saw it. In the artificial plant section, the one packed with fake ferns and cheap plastic trees, there was movement. But it wasn't just moving among the plants, it was mimicking them. It was tall, impossibly thin, and its skin had the same dull, waxy sheen as the artificial leaves beside it. It hadn't noticed him yet. It was just swaying, like it was trying to blend in. David didn't wait to find out if it saw him. He didn't even pack up his tools. He walked, not ran, just walked, straight to the break room, locked the door, and waited for sunrise. The next morning, they checked the security footage. Nothing. The footage showed David kneeling, looking at the floor, and then suddenly standing up and walking away, as if he had been staring at something that the camera couldn't see. But the garden center wasn't the only place that shifted once the lights dimmed. A few miles away, another employee found out that some things in this store don't want to be found. Brenda had worked the night shift for 6 years. She was the definition of unfazed. She knew every inch of that store, especially the fitting room hallway, a long, sterile corridor that felt less like a store and more like a surgical theater at 4:15 a.m. It was protocol. Every single stall had to be checked, and every door locked from the outside before the morning reset. Brenda walked down the line, pulling each latch, hearing that reassuring phone. She was at the far end of the hallway when she heard it. Low, rhythmic, muffled. She stopped. She knew she'd just locked that stall. She knocked on the metal door. "Morning shift isn't here yet. You need to leave." No answer. Just that rhythm. It wasn't human speech. It sounded like wet gravel being shaken in a box. She reached for the gap between the stall door and the frame. She peered through. Nothing. Empty. Just the clean, tiled floor and the coat hook. She stepped back, her heart hammering against her ribs. She looked up at the wall of mirrors that spanned the hallway. She saw herself, pale under the LEDs, but in the mirror, stall 4 was wide open. And standing just inside, partially obscured by the frame, was something that hadn't been there a second ago. A shape, draped in clothes that shouldn't exist. She spun around. The stall was locked, empty. She turned back to the mirror. The stall was open again. She didn't look a third time. She left her keys, her vest, and her pride on the floor and walked out the fire exit. They say Brenda never stepped foot in a store that size again. The security tapes? They just show her talking to an empty hallway and a stall door that never once moved. The fitting rooms were bad enough, but back in the bowels of the store, where the goods are kept frozen, the silence wasn't empty. It was waiting. Marcus was the night shift's ghost. He preferred the freezer. It was the only place in the store where customers couldn't find him. It was 5 a.m. He'd left the heavy, insulated door unlatched, just a crack, so he wouldn't get stuck. He stopped. The fans didn't just fail, they changed. It wasn't the sound of a machine dying, it was rhythmic. He paused, his breath fogging the air, and that's when he heard it. Coming from the darkest corner behind the highest pallet. Someone was humming. A nursery rhyme. He walked around the tower of frozen goods, expecting to find a coworker taking a break. He rounded the corner, and the humming stopped instantly. Nothing. Just the cold and the frost on the walls. He turned to leave, and the air just stopped moving. He looked at the door. He'd left it cracked. Now it was flush against the frame. He sprinted to it, shoving his shoulder against the latch. It didn't budge. It felt like it was welded shut. He peered through the small glass window into the loading bay. Outside, in the dim emergency lighting, a figure was standing perfectly still, watching him. It was wearing a store vest, but the face was a smooth, featureless blur of gray skin. No eyes, no mouth, just a blank, human-shaped slate. Marcus banged on that glass until his knuckles bled, until the morning shift found him collapsed on the floor, shivering. When they opened that door, the loading bay was empty. They told him he'd hallucinated from the cold, but Marcus knew. He carries a sweater with him everywhere now, even in the middle of summer, because no matter where he is, no matter how hot the sun gets, he says he can still feel the frost from that room, and he can still hear that humming.